Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I will be discussing my review and retrospective on the A Time 2 series from Star Trek: The Next Generation. If you've been following my channel for a few weeks, you'll know that I've been doing retrospectives on the Destiny trilogy, on the Fall series, on the Prey trilogy, on the Full Circle series. And this is doubling as both that retrospective and at the same time a review. I've been reviewing these books for Roku Depot, which is a wonderful place. You should check them out. They do book reviews and book news and Star Wars news and Star Trek stuff. And so I've been reviewing Star Trek books, specifically the A Time 2 series, for the last several months, actually since I believe sometime in June or July is when I started. And so it is a 9-book series, as you can tell, featuring characters from The Next Generation. It was written between the 9 books. You had 5, well, if you include the co-authors, 6 authors involved. It was a major collaborative effort detailing the time between Star Trek Insurrection and Star Trek Nemesis. And I have to say, of all the series that I have reviewed on this retrospective, it is by far the most mixed series I've ever read. The beginning books, A Time to Be Born and A Time to Die, which serve as kind of a duology, were meh. I didn't like them. I didn't really dislike them. I just kind of think they're meh. They did some great things with setting up the series, setting Jean-Luc Picard back in his in his esteem among Starfleet. It introduced me to a lot of characters that apparently were in The Next Generation that I just didn't remember from watching the show, and it really showed the expansion that the series could have. And it told a nice little duology story, and it was refreshing to see Data in there because I've been reading the post-Nemesis books where Data is, of course, dead after Nemesis. And so to see him in this duology was just a lot of fun. Then you have the second duology, which is A Time to Sow and A Time to Harvest by Dayton Ward and Kevin Dilmore. This was the duology that I just thought, but by the way, before I start anything, I know my books look like crap. These are from used bookstores, so I just was trying to find print copies in any way I could. But these books, they just lacked energy. They lacked fun storytelling. I felt like the authors were going through the motions of a Star Trek story. And even though they introduced elements, particularly with Crusher in this, they didn't go anywhere. They don't go anywhere until the end of the series, and it was just so frustrating to read. And so I just didn't like this duology as a whole. I just thought it was very weak. Then you have the next duology, which was A Time to Love and A Time to Hate by Robert Greenberger. This, despite being markedly shorter than the other books in the series, was a significant step up from the first 2 duologies. This was mainly because they actually paid off promises. This felt like this was telling an important, needed-to-know story. It brought back characters that needed to be addressed from the Star Trek universe, from The Next Generation, particularly Will Riker's dad. And so it was fun to see him in here. It was the story had me on the edge of my seat. This was a very dangerous time where if I didn't know this character survived, I might have really been quaking in my boots for them. It was done very well. That being said, I still felt frustrated that it wasn't a large enough scope and it didn't have the crossover appeal that the series should have had. And I really feel with all of the books that each duology should have been 1 book instead of a duology. And I think that the pacing would have worked better, and I think that the marketing would have been easier. They would have not had as many books in the series, but it would have worked out better, I think. And then you have the last 3 books in the series. You have A Time to Kill and A Time to Heal, which were by David Mack. And then you have A Time for War and A Time for Peace by Keith DiCandido. And these 3 books were just fantastically done. The duology by David Mack has to do with the planet Tesla, which is near the Klingon border, and the Prime Minister of Tesla wants to launch an attack on the Klingons using Federation weapons, and it causes a major political scene. And so on Tesla, you have the whole Enterprise crew trying to stop the Enterprise E crew trying to stop the stuff at Tesla, while at the same time Worf is on Kronos trying to stop the Klingons from retaliating and trying to keep the peace if possible. And it is just it has shocking moments. It has epic battles. It has great character moments. Has amazing themes. This duology asks questions about warfare and about declaring war in a way that none of the other books in the series asked. None of the previous books asked. And it showed true, mature, deep writing, despite the fact that this was the first ever full-length novels that David Mack had ever written. And so I loved reading this duology. And then you have A Time for War and A Time for Peace, in which case the Federation has to elect a new president after some turmoil. And it was utterly fantastic of a story. It was so much fun to read. It sets up the political stuff that will happen in future books like Articles of the Federation. Keith DiCandido takes his two strengths, Klingons and politics, and puts them together in this book. And it has a fun little caper regarding a certain Klingon character from the Next Generation, which was a lot of fun. And it also just tells a lot of people in rooms having dialogue with each other. This has the least action of all the books, and yet is still a great read. This is the book that payoffs all the promises, and it has the best pacing of all the series. And this book was something where they had two books planned, and they combined it into one, proving that my idea of doing one book instead of two worked better. And so I really liked this book. So the beginning of the series was okay, and then I thought was bad in the second duology, and then it got a little bit better, and by the end was amazing. And so I think as a whole, I would say that this series is good, maybe pretty good, not great, not bad, not meh. It's as a whole, it is worth it to read this series, but of all the series I've read for Star Trek, it is by far the weakest as a whole. It had the most plotting issues, it had the biggest cohesiveness issues, it had the biggest pacing issues. Characters were pretty good, I'll say. All the books, narratively, the characters felt very good, but that's because they knew exactly where the characters were beginning and ending in the series. And so, yeah, I'd say this is probably about a 7 out of 10 for a series, maybe 6.5. It's good, it's just not great. But I was happy I read all of them, and I feel like I understand Star Trek, and specifically The Next Generation, a lot more. And there are some fun surprises. There's some characters that show up. I was like, I didn't know they were going to be here. And there are also some nice nods to the other series that I appreciated. But that is my review. Tell me if you've read the A Time To series. What was your favorite book? What did you think of the series as a whole? Are there other Star Trek series or individual books that I should read? Comment those down below. This was a fun video because it serves as both a current review and also the kind of retrospective, since I've been working on this series for months, and also goes with my retrospectives. And I also have to say that for the meantime, this is the final retrospective that I'll have for Star Trek, because I don't have any more series to talk about that I've previously read. I will just be reviewing series that I'm reading right now, and I'll do videos on each book as I read them. And so that's what you can expect from the channel for a while. But thank you so much for watching my channel. Thank you so much for letting me get to talk with you about Star Trek. Let me know any thoughts you have. I love, if you have any questions about where to read Star Trek books, I have lots of answers. So until next time, my name is Jonathan, and thank you for watching.